In this episode, we're going to talk about the secrets behind getting featured in mass media and getting publicity that actually converts into leads and sales. So stay tuned.
If you want to build a legitimate, profitable online business without shiny objects, without the hypey gimmicks, and without the stress and overwhelm, if you want to make more money without having to be present online all day, every day, pumping out content that nobody sees and hustling DMs to generate leads and sales, then this is the place for you. Welcome to the Digital Trailblazer podcast, your online business university, where you'll learn how ordinary people start from ground zero with no influence, no email list or audience to sell to, and no business or marketing experience, and go from working 9-to-5 jobs to building successful 6- and 7-figure online businesses and all the steps in between. Learn the strategies that worked and what didn't. Learn the mistakes that they made and how to avoid them, and then learn their plans for scaling their businesses and taking things to the next level. All so that you can build your business faster and easier and make more money without sacrificing the things that are important to you in your life. I'm your host, Leah Ray Getz, and with me is my husband, Todd. Now, let's get to it with today's guest.
Welcome, everybody. I am Todd Getz, your host of the Digital Trailblazer podcast. And with me today is Melissa Guenette. Melissa, welcome to the podcast. Why don't you just take a quick minute and introduce yourself to our audience?
Great. Thank you so much for having me. As you said, my name is Melissa. I am the CEO of A-List Media Solutions. We are a media and marketing-based company here in Canada's capital, where we work with individuals and businesses to make sure that they maximize their media presence, that they have the best media coaching possible, and so that they can convert their media into more media, more exposure, as well as sales.
Yeah. And the thing is, with any type of business, and especially coaches, course creators, agency owners, like the people that we talk to on the podcast, the biggest thing is getting seen, getting heard by your target audience. And so many people have a problem with that. We work on creating a product, creating a coaching program, creating an online course. We put all this time and effort into building this perfect product, and then we launch. And then so many people, when they launch, they hear nothing but crickets, right? Because there's nobody out there listening. And so there's a lot of ways that we can get seen and heard. And one of them is by getting featured in mass media. So when we talk about getting featured in mass media, what are we talking about? What kind of outlets are we getting featured on here?
So it varies client to client. Everybody has a different goal, so they want to be seen on different outlets. But a lot of it is traditional media, because that's a lot of media that will validate you. Then there's also podcasts, there's magazines, there's social media, collaborations, the things on those lines. Basically, it's anywhere that your face or your message will be seen or heard.
This type of publicity I really like because there's a lot of ways to generate traffic. We can run paid ads. I like paid ads because it's quick, but the thing is that you're reaching an audience that has no idea who you are. So you're starting from ground zero. You've got to build all that trust and rapport and credibility. You could try to create your own YouTube channel, start your own Instagram account, TikTok, whatever, right? Create your own podcast. But now you're trying to grow something from scratch that takes a long time. I don't think people really realize how long it takes to build your own audience on one of those platforms. And so then we have things like what you're talking about, which is getting in front of other people's audiences. These are audiences that are pre-built, that are pre-warmed up. And when you appear on these outlets, you're instantly seen as authoritative, as credible, and as the expert, and you're instantly being seen by hundreds, if not thousands of people. And I find it to be a really good blend between paid ads and building an organic platform. So it's one of those things that we really push with our audience. Typically for us, when we're talking to people, we typically say, okay, well, podcasts are a good place to start. Also, if you can get into summits and giveaways, those are good ways to collaborate and get in front of other people's audiences. But you're also talking about other things that people can get featured on, such as more traditional types of media, right?
Yeah, so there's a couple different reasons why people like to get featured in traditional media. One, it does validate yourself because it is coming from a reputable news source, whether it is a magazine that's been around for a long time, a local newspaper, your television breakfast show that airs in your neighborhood. It really is a great way for clients and people to validate you as somebody who is credible, as opposed to just a stranger on the internet that might be trying to reach out to them. So there's a little bit of that, which is why it's great. And like you said, if done well, it can target the exact audience that you're trying to target. If done poorly, though, however, you're just wasting a lot of time and money for absolutely no reason. So what we do is we make sure that when you are getting your 5 minutes of fame in front of any camera or any news outlet, it's, are you really saying the right words? Is your message getting across clearly? How are you presenting yourself or your business so that it is something that is enticing for people to want to engage in? Yeah, I think that's a difference. A lot of people go in unprepared.
So let's talk about that. When you're booking these appearances for people, how long or how big of a appearance are we talking about? Is it, like you said, is it just 5 minutes? Is it 15? Like, how short are these appearances?
So again, it varies so much per person. I'm sure we've all watched a morning news show where they cover segments of things that are happening in the local community. Those ones typically don't last more than 5 minutes, but you don't need more than 5 minutes for something along those lines. But if you want an entire newspaper spread or magazine spread written about you, that could take up to 24 hours, an entire photo shoot, a lot of work behind the scenes to make something like that happen versus like a commercial that you might be doing, or maybe preparing slides for speaking engagement and reaching out to people so that you can be on stage and really present yourself as an expert in your field amongst your peers.
So when you work with people, it's not just for one thing. Is it for multiple things?
Yeah, so most of our clients really want that broad spectrum of the media. So they want to be put as much in front of the media as possible, especially media that applies to their business. So it's usually a combination of a bought media and earned media. So the difference between the two is pretty standard in the name. A bought media is something that you bought and paid for. So that is paying for a feature in a newspaper or paying to be on that television segment. That's absolutely fine. There's nothing wrong with that as long as you're using that media in other aspects to really help promote your business. Then there's earned media. So that might be something topical that's happening where a reporter will reach out to you and they will want to cover a story that you're doing. So you're not paying for it. You've actually just piqued the interest in the media to cover that. So it's really about letting them know all of the activities that you're doing so that they would want to cover you.
And so when you work with somebody, do you typically go for one over the other at first, or where do you usually start with these things?
The first thing I usually start and I tell everyone to do is to create a media kit. So that is usually the easiest way to start. Even if you're starting from zero, that's absolutely fine. If you ever want to just like, if anyone has any questions, they can email me about a media kit, media@alistmediasolutions.com. I'm happy to have like a 10, 15-minute call with you to go over it. But if you have a media kit, basically it is a few photos that are for media use only, a bit of a write-up about you or your business or whatever the messages that you're trying to put forward, and some of the amazing products or services that set you apart from somebody else. So once you have that media kit, which is really only 1 or 2 pages long, it's not overly extensive, you can sort of like ship that out to some like what I call soft news outlets or news sources, which are things like podcasts, which are things like bloggers, which are things that don't necessarily cost a lot of money to get featured on to start out. Once you kind of have a little bit of experience, you have a representative who's been speaking on behalf of the company for a while, whether it's yourself or it could be the CEO of that company or one of their like marketing executives. That's fine. They've had the practice, they've developed the narrative, they know what they're saying. Then that's when it's time to start investing in bought media. So paid media is something like when you want to get covered by Forbes magazine. Often you'll notice, but you can tell when it's organic and you can tell when it's bought. There's feel like a tiny little blurb written at the very bottom of it saying that it was purchased by this company. So that's sort of the difference. And there's no right or wrong way to do it. It really depends on your budget. It depends on who you're trying to reach out to, but either way, no matter how big you are, you still need a media kit. No matter how small you are, you're still going to need that media kit.
So for something like a write-up in Forbes, how much would that typically run?
It really depends on what you're trying to accomplish, again, and how much Forbes wants to have you, whether you're buying it through their media like purchase a section, which is basically like you're buying advertising space versus just sort of like kind of convincing somebody at Forbes to write about you for a nice, generous donation. And I'm not trying to throw Forbes under the bus here. They are actually a fantastic magazine. And I feel like this goes for like most magazines or most publications. This is like really has nothing to do with Forbes at all. It could be anywhere between like 3,000 and up. It's not cheap, but the revenue that you get from that could be fantastic. Okay, it really just depends. Are you using your marketing dollars wisely? Are you using that featured in Forbes everywhere? Are you bringing your audience behind the scenes to your feature in Forbes? Are you letting them know that it's coming out? when it comes out with their call to action? Is there a way for them to get a hold of you or contact you to buy your services or products? Is it coming out at the right time? Is it coming out in the right section of a magazine? Sometimes it's only on Forbes Online, which a lot of people do like feature as Forbes, but you're featured in the Forbes Online version. So it's a very, very different on how you want to do it. And there's like a lot of different aspects. But what I recommend is just making sure that when you have the content, when you have been featured, you take it and then you use it yourself in a lot of varying ways. You want to add that to your media kit because media is like they tend to snowball. So like they will follow the leader. So if you've been featured by the larger audiences, but then everyone else will also want to feature you as well.
Interesting. Yeah, that's a really good point. And also, that's probably why you want to be very practiced and ready when you get on the Forbes. You don't want to just throw $30,000 into the wind and not be ready for it.
Exactly, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, I don't like do your stepping stones. Everybody has to start somewhere. You didn't become a multimillionaire overnight. Everybody has to start one stone at a time. And it's really refining that message, often working with the media coaches. Some people are better spoken than others. Some people, are naturals in front of the cameras. Some people struggle with it. Like everyone has their challenges. And it's really just getting the practice in there, identifying those, refining them so that when you do get the larger opportunities that you're ready for it.
So for the shorter spots, like if you're on a local news program and maybe you've only got 5 minutes, what do you talk about in those 5 minutes?
So one, you want to introduce yourself. You want to tell them who you are, why you're doing this, and how they can contact you. So those are really the three main ones. So you want to have a clear introduction. You want to let them know exactly what it is that your company does, why you're here on that television show, what sets you apart, like just feel like that nice little elevator pitch about yourself. And then you really want to make sure that at some point in that message that there is a way to contact you.
And then when you do get on those TV shows, why are they typically bringing you on? Because I honestly don't listen to a lot of local TV or news. I can't even think of someone that I've heard. Well, I guess, I don't know. Like on morning shows, maybe I see a chef here or there give a recipe. Is that the type of thing we're talking about? Or what are they bringing you on the show for?
So it can be. It can be that maybe you're an expert in travel or you're a specific type of coach that might be motivating people, or you are a fashion stylist or a chef. Really, they bring guests on who are going to pique the interest of their viewers. Everything is about race. So you want to make sure that you have something to offer to that viewership that is going to intrigue that station to have you on their television show.
So for something like that, I assume you'd want to have more of a trending topic to talk about or something?
Not necessarily. Like you said, it's a chef, a recipe. Everyone knows the recipe. This is not a new invention to the world. We all have seen a cooking show at one point in time in our lives. Everybody has traveled. Everybody has shopped their own closet. Those are all things that are very, very standard. What you want to do, though, is you want to make sure that whatever message you're bringing is engaging in that audience. So maybe you wrote a book and you're pitching your book and you're talking about the amazing message that is in your book and why this is a great course that somebody should be taking and how maybe it'll change somebody's life and how it will change your life, making it. That's absolutely fantastic. But you also want to make sure that it's resonating with that audience. And pitching yourself to those stations is actually very easy. There are people there whose entire job it is to fill those time slots. And when you send your media kit to them, you're doing half their job for them. So it makes their job a lot easier when they have a nice professional looking media kit. They can tell that you have spoken in the past a few times on maybe some other reputable stations. If you podcast, maybe you have a nice social media presence. So they know that you will be professional, that you're not going to embarrass the news station or outlet that you're speaking on, and that you're going to be a great person to bring on. They like diversity. Like they don't want the same people every day.
Now, are there things that you can put into that media kit or that you can have on your resume that help you to get booked? Like, for example, this podcast, I think right now it's like a top 2% podcast. That might be something that I put on there to kind of show that I'm not like a newbie to this. Do things like that help, or what are the things that you want to mention in order to increase your chances of getting booked?
Yeah. So on most media kits, I mentioned the top 10 media things that you've ever done. Okay. Some people do media every single day, so they can't put everything that they've ever done onto their media kit, but you put the top 10 things that you've done and make it visually appealing. You want to have links to them so that the people can do a little bit of background research on you. You want to make sure that your message is clear and that the media kit that you're sending to them will again resonate with your audience. So if you are a chef and you are trying to go on a morning show that targets women, then you might want a nice, light, hearty, family-friendly snack that you're showing. Versus if you're on a barbecue channel that might their target audience might be men, then you might want something that's a little bit more hearty, that is a little bit more like barbecuing friendly. You really want to make sure that whatever segment you are pitching matches the style of the show or media or news outlet that you're trying to do.
Now, with these appearances, do you always have to be local? Like, do you have to show up to the station and be there physically, or can you do this over Zoom? For example, like I'm in Southwest Florida. Could I appear on a show in Texas or New York or California?
You can, especially if you're topical. So that means that something in the news is happening right now that might have to do with you, or you have a unique point of view on it. So that's a little bit different. So maybe they are doing a segment on podcasters from where you're from. So of course, you would be an excellent person who would be able to comment on that. However, generally, they do like having people in the studio. It makes for a more professional setting. There's better lighting. They can control the sound. There's fewer variables that could go wrong. However, I don't know if you're planning a trip this summer with yourself, your family, and you're going to a different state. You could pick yourself lighter there. You know, Todd is here. He's here for 1 week. He's the amazing host of Digital Trailblazer. He'd be more than happy to do a segment on your television show coming out. And then I would list to maybe 4 or 5 things that you're an expert in or that you'd be willing to talk about that would interest their audience.
For things like that, as far as timing, how fast is that process from submitting the media kit to, for example, if I'm going on vacation, like right now I'm on vacation, I'm in Minnesota, I'm here for 2 weeks. If I wanted to get featured on a local news show here or something, how soon ahead of time would I have had to submit something in order to do that?
So you still have plenty of time as long as what you are doing, again, like I said, is topical. So I would maybe take something that is happening in the news right now, such as reduced to travel and tourism in the United States would be a great topic of conversation and why you chose to visit Minnesota. They could talk about your experiences, such as a 2% podcaster and how you think that has helped people. Maybe while you're in Minnesota, you're doing a teaching or training coaching camp to help people succeed. Those are all topical subjects that are happening during that time. They might be happy to cover if they have an opening. An easier way, because it is such a short period of time for you, would be more digital marketing. So a lot of news outlets have their digital version as well. And it's a lot easier, and they update and they add a lot more articles and they add a lot more news to the digital version as opposed to just the section that you'll see on television. And again, getting featured in it is still amazing. You know, getting featured in Forbes digital magazine is equally as good sometimes as getting featured in a Forbes magazine.
What if you put together this media kit and you submit it to a bunch of places, but you're not getting a bunch of hits, like you're not getting a bunch of interest? Can you retool it and submit again, or how often can you keep pitching them to try to get on these shows?
Please redo it, reinvent yourself as many times as you need to. You want to make sure that you're maybe changing and alternating some of the pitch topics. Once you start doing it, you'll notice what works and what doesn't work and what people are interested in. But in the beginning, you're sort of just like throwing a few things at the wall, hoping that something sticks. So please, you can revisit it maybe like every month and a half, 2 months. You can re-pitch yourself to those outlets. I deal with reporters in the media every single day. And if you saw how organized their inboxes are, they get press releases and they get media pitches, like hundreds of them a day. And they are organizing them and they do have them organized. So it might not be something that they're looking to feature now, but 6 months from now, something might come up and they'll be like, oh yes, I remember the pitch that we got from somebody that actually pertains to this topic. Let me go search through my inbox and find that so that I can reach out to them. So sometimes it doesn't happen right away, but you're putting yourself on their radar. And as you're getting more media, you're updating that media kit, you're refining it, and people will jump on that bandwagon a little bit more, get a little more comfortable in front of the camera. People will see you, and then it does snowball. So you have to start off slowly, but then as the ball starts to grow, it really can get quite large.
Now, as far as how often to get booked on these different outlets, are you looking to do things once a month or once a week, or how many appearances are you trying to get onto on an ongoing basis?
I say use many that serve you or your business. So you don't want to burn yourself out by doing so much media that you don't actually have time to work on your business. So that doesn't really matter. Also, once you've reached an audience a few times and you've had a chance to speak to them, how many more times are you going to give the exact same people your message? So you're already giving them that message, and that's fantastic. But once they've all heard it 4, 5, 6 times, like you don't need to keep reminding them of you every single week then I would scale back quite a bit so that now you're just like a quarterly reminder of something or a service that you could provide to the public. I would start locally and then I constantly sort of just like branch out a little bit to neighboring cities, neighboring towns until across the whole country.
And then as far as what you actually want to do and say in order to translate that into leads and sales in your business, what are some of the keys that you want to do in order to make sure that this actually pays off and it actually helps you to grow your business?
I usually like to let people know that I'm going to be on a show as soon as I know. So like, oh my God, I'm so excited. I'm going to be featured on this episode on August 15th. So I bring people along the journey. It's getting ready, it's driving there, it's getting people excited and priming them for everything that's going to happen. I'll usually recommend creating a few graphics of yourself, with the logo of that news outlet next to it, so that there is something that looks very official that you can share on social media. If you're taking photos while you're there with maybe like the news crew or the producers behind the scenes and everything like that, so that everyone's really engaged and excited for your journey along the way. Then afterwards, I take that content and you want to share it as much as possible. You want to add it to all of your media outlets. You want to add it to local Facebook groups that you might be involved in, or you want it to get shared and seen by as many friends and family and cousins and strangers, business partners that you could possibly imagine, so that everyone sees what you're doing. So that not only are you on the mind of the audience who viewed that episode, you're also on the mind of everyone in your community. You're on the mind of all the people in your social network that could really use that. So it's a way of legitimizing yourself. And if people were on the fence about potentially working with you, seeing that a major news outlet was working with you might just put them over the fence. Like, okay, let's work with this person.
Here's the thing, like when we go live in we have a Facebook group community, and every time we go live in it, we promote it beforehand and then we promote it afterwards and we do all these things. It didn't occur to me to do that with these media appearances too. But it's such a good idea. Yeah, you want to maximize every single bit of that experience with your audience. And I think doing the stuff beforehand and behind the scenes, yeah, you definitely want to do that and then promote it and use it in your marketing and promote that to your audience. I really like that idea. So when you're doing these appearances, I know that for us, we typically have some sort of a freebie, free PDF download or a mini course or something that we like to promote at the end. Do they let you do that, or are you typically just plugging your website or something, or what do they allow you to do as far as promoting some sort of a lead generation thing?
So they generally don't allow you to have a link or anything like that because they want to control those links and where everything goes. They don't want people to get taken off of their outlet as others. So like if you're sitting on a link, then now you're going to stop reading that news and then they're going to go off to something else. They don't want you to generously have a link or anything like that. However, they will usually say where they can find you. And if the host doesn't say it, then say it yourself. Like you can find me at alistmediasolutions.com. You want to get in touch with me? Email me at media@alistmediasolutions.com. I'm always here to help. I love doing this. This is something that's always been passionate about. And that's usually the best way. Now, something that people often forget is also priming the producers and the hosts of that breakfast morning television show, for example, of what to say. What do you want your title to be underneath your name? What do you want the host to call you? What do you want the sign off to be? If you don't prime them for that and you don't give them that information, then they're just going to sort of wing it. Like, oh yeah, we love having you. Thank you so much. Everybody have a great day. Enjoy your beautiful new recipe. But if they're like, oh, and you can see the chef at this local restaurant that he's doing a pop-up at, that's information that you would have to give the producer so that they know how to sign it off.
Yeah, that's a good tip. I can see myself totally forgetting that.
Well, that's why you have a media liaison. That's the point, is like making sure that that person's coming in and that all of that stuff is prepared for you so that it's really easy for you to just go out there, share your message. You know what the message that you're sharing is going to have the strongest impact that it possibly could. And then afterwards, that they're going to use that message and make sure that it has double, triple, quadruple the impact later on in other ways.
So as far as where we're getting featured, so we kind of talked a lot about local TV shows and things like that. You also get people featured on radio shows and podcasts and things like that, right?
Absolutely. Media to media.
So how are those? Because those are typically longer form content, I would assume, right? So how do you prepare people for those?
Very similarly. So we go over what is our main goal of this media event. So like, what is the goal? What message are we genuinely trying to get across? What questions do we want to be asked? What questions do we want to ask? We want to make sure that we're prepared for all of them. Now, some of them, depending on the type of news or media that you're doing, sometimes, it can be sort of combative with the host and, they're trying to sort of maybe get some juice out of it or maybe some gossip out of a situation. It really depends who it is that you're talking to and the news that you're speaking with. But a conversation is a conversation. Longer form conversation, as far as I'm concerned, should make people feel like you're speaking to a friend. Should make you feel like you're just enjoying someone's presence, whether you're in the room or not, almost like watching television with your eyes closed. So is it engaging? Does it feel nice and thoughtful? It's a little less exaggerated because you have more time. In a 5-minute segment, you come out a little more animated with a lot more energy versus an hour-long conversation. You can really change the tone of your voice so that it becomes much more enjoyable. The message is a lot longer, a bit more detailed. You can really express a lot more when you're on a longer segment.
Now, there's something else you help people with, and you told me the name, and I always fumble with it, but it's called experiential marketing. Is that right?
Absolutely. I think this is the most overlooked and the most important form of marketing out there that I think businesses really need to focus a lot more on. While getting media and press is fantastic, really going to the source and engaging with people in your community is so much more impactful. So what you don't know what experiential marketing is, I'm sure you've seen it a lot of times. It's when you go to a fair or a festival, a home show, trade show, and there's all these booths set up. Some of the booths are a lot of fun. There's a spinning wheel, there's cornhole, there's a photo booth. They're really creating an experience for you to enjoy and to build that positive emotional relationship with their brand. And I think that's something that people are lacking in most businesses, where everything is sort of detached and everyone's just a voice on the internet versus really getting a chance to experience that business or that brand firsthand is a lot of fun. So if your business is like a beverage company or you are a training coach, how can you bring an experience to those people? It is sharing cocktails with your beverage. It is having people do taste tests and having an interactive game where a wheel spins and it chooses the flavor for you. And you're giving out these beverages and creating a positive emotional experience between your business and the people who are enjoying it. And the one thing now that AI can't replace is that human connection and that interaction. The youth of today, 45 and under, are spending more money on experiences than ever before. So that is going to concerts and festivals and outdoor fairs and you name it. People are out there having fun, enjoying their lives. And if you can be 1% of that enjoyment, they're going to remember it.
I think you're exactly right. That personal connection and that relationship that you build, it's so much more impactful than any automated thing that you can do. And especially with high ticket stuff. I know that we have a lot of high ticket coaches out there, agencies, especially when you're doing high ticket, you need that personal touch. People are not going to just buy and join because they saw an automated webinar and they're dropping $10,000 with you after that. It just doesn't happen that way. They need to feel like they know, like, and trust you, and they need to have a personal conversation in order to be able to do that. And especially if they meet you in person. Like, I know that whenever we go to events, I mean, we're always spending money on something. We always meet somebody that's doing something cool, or we're collaborating with people. And there's always something new that we're getting roped into. I know that, just recently, we just dropped $25,000 on on a new thing because we went to an event. We met a coach and it was exactly what we wanted to learn. We made the connection at an event and here we are now. We made that connection and it's $25,000.
And that's just it. So you're going to be surrounded by like-minded people. And if any of your clients or potential clients are on the fence about working with you, they can ask other questions in real time. They get to see you work in real time. They get to sort of build an association with that brand that is a little bit different than they would with anybody else. And like I always say, like never knock that emotional connection. Coca-Cola every year still had polar bears rolling down a hill with an emotional bond, enjoying a Coca-Cola at the end come Christmas time. And there's not a person in the world who's never heard about Coca-Cola because they're creating an emotional bond and an emotional connection with their viewers. So it's always making sure that you have a way to create that connection. And experiential marketing can be done extremely cheaply. It does not necessarily have to cost a lot of money. We can obviously spend a lot of money by going to the big conventions like the fairs and having exaggerated booths and all of these amazing giveaways and prizes, and that's fantastic. But you can also, if you're a coach, have a meetup in a park somewhere where maybe you do one session of your coaching absolutely free, where people can come and experience you, ask questions, they can learn a little bit about what the coaching atmosphere is. And if they're interested, then they can sign up for 10 courses or so forth and so on, whatever it is that you're selling.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Because I know that we've used platforms like Meetup, Eventbrite. We've used those to promote online stuff, but they're meant for in-person events. And I know that when we run ads, especially on Eventbrite, we've run Eventbrite ads, it's super cheap. Like it is way cheaper than what we ever get on Facebook for leads and things like that. So I feel like you could probably do something like that and get a lot of people showing up for not a lot of money.
Well, and that's just it. And again, that's one of the reasons why people need like a media and marketing liaison is because, yeah, you could spend $30,000 paying for this amazing ad cycle, or you could spend $3,000 and really engage with a specific amount of people who will all end up buying your course or your product. Because sometimes when you're just like covering a general broad ground, you might not really be appealing to 500,000 people that this magazine is reaching. You might only really need 500 people. And 500 people is plenty to start a very good coaching program. 500 brand new customers every month that are loyal, that actually care about your brand, that care and are engaging, and that want to be there. They want to sample it. They're going to tell all their friends and everything about it. It's worth so much more than its weight in gold.
So, Melissa, this has been just so eye-opening. I know there's a lot of things that we covered today about media kits and where to get started and what to talk about and all that stuff. If people want to learn more about this and maybe how to get started, where can they find you online? How can they get some more help?
So the easiest way to reach me is via email at media@alistmediasolutions.com. I am on social media at Miss Guenette or A-List Media Solutions. You can find me there, reach out there. But the way to get into my direct inbox would be through that email address. I'm not always the one monitoring all of our social medias. We have a few other people who take care of that. So if it is a direct question that's only going to take, a 15-minute answer, happy to do that for you. And I understand that like it can be daunting, kind of like not knowing where to start, but it is really, really simple once you get that media kit down to really sort of learn how to pitch yourself, and it's just keep doing it until it works.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. We will have the links for all of that in the show notes, so be sure to check that out. Melissa, thank you so much for being with us. We really enjoyed having you on the podcast today.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me, and enjoy your vacation.
Yes, definitely.
You've been listening to the Digital Trailblazer podcast. For show notes and information about today's guest, head to digitaltrailblazer.com. Now, if you love this episode, if you got some value, make sure you leave us a review and subscribe. And be sure to share this episode with anyone you know who could use help to build their business. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.